those that have taken the experimental medical intervention and had no side effect after the injection believe that everything is fine, they're okay. For those of you that are keeping tabs of what's really going on with research and experimentation as to really what's happening once you've been injected after 6 months, a year, what have you, are aware there's some potential serious long-term problems. Personally, I did not take the experimental medication, neither did my wife, but my children and grandchildren did. And many others that are friends, close relatives, close friends who have taken the experimental medication. They are completely unaware that there may be a ticking time bomb out there. Maybe. I'm not saying there is. I'm saying maybe. Look at the research that's going on, and it's not being disseminated by the media. So people who are just living their lives and watching the legacy media are completely unaware of what's going on. Just with a couple of the problems, it appears, and there's many more than this couple that are potentially serious long-term. One is, we were told that the injection, the medication, would stay in your muscle tissue, and it would express a certain protein pathogen that the immune system would recognize and come in and destroy, and then your adaptive immune system would make antibodies, and now you're protected from this pathogen. We were told that if you take it, you're not going to get it, the pathogen, you're not going to go to the hospital, and you're not going to die. Well, the empirical evidence worldwide shows that that was not exactly true. In fact, as it turns out, there are some very high quality studies that are showing the more you get of this medical intervention, in other words, boosted, the more chances you have of getting the disease, going to the hospital, and even dying. Now, some would argue, well, that's something wrong with that study or whatever. Maybe so. But all I'm saying is, I care about these people that have taken the intervention, even though some of them condemned me for not taking it. I understand, they were told anybody who doesn't take it is selfish, irresponsible. And people, when they're afraid and they fear for their lives, they're looking for a savior. And the savior was this medical intervention, and the authorities told them that was the savior. And so they grasped at it. And then there was others that really didn't want to do it, but they had to if they wanted to keep their job, their livelihood, and so on. So hopefully, everything's going to be okay. But I think the course of action that should be taken here is there should be, number one, the media should be informing everyone that there are serious questions about the long-term safety of this intervention. And that wouldn't be a surprise, really, Because if you look at the statistics of FDA-approved medical interventions, roughly 30% of those interventions that went through the total protocols of the FDA, the stringent protocols, 30% of them get recalled for safety concerns. And yet this medical intervention only completed a fraction of the studies. And it was extraordinarily rushed, so it wouldn't be a surprise if there's maybe some trouble. So what I would like to see is, number one, the media being open and honest and telling everyone, here, this is what's going on. This is what we're finding out. It's still uncertain, but if we did that, if we could get this information out to the public at large, then we could push for a very thorough investigation, studies, to see what kind of long-term impacts this experimental medical intervention might have. Now, there are those that, based on what's already been done, there are those that say, oh, it's definitely these problems that are propping up in the population. There is correlations that show perhaps that the medical intervention has something to do with these problems that are cropping up. But it's not, we don't know for sure. But there are those that say, yes, it's absolutely, these problems are due to the medical intervention. And then there are those that say, no way, not a chance. Both are wrong. We don't know. That's the truth. So, but it's doesn't look good. So we need to get this out in the open. We need to really do our homework and research what's going on, because it's in everyone's best interest. Because even if you haven't taken this medical intervention and it really doesn't pertain to you, you certainly, like me, have loved ones, close friends, and things that you care about, and they should know. They should know. We should get this out, and we should demand a thorough, I don't care what it costs, hundreds of billions of dollars, whatever, and it needs to be open, transparent, public inquiry, and it needs to be fixed if it's even possible to do that. Imagine if back in the 40s or 50s, cigarette smoking was considered healthy, that reduces stress, calms you down. Not bad. So we do some studies. We do a study for 9 months, sort of like this medical intervention. And we find out everybody's fine after 9 months. Smoking doesn't hurt you. And then we find out 20, 30 years later, people who smoke are far more susceptible to lung cancer and other diseases, smoker leg, diabetes, hypertension, heart disease. So we need to do some serious research here. And we also need to, as well, people, professionals in authority who knew these interventions were potentially dangerous, chose not to inform the population. Also, it was based on, what's happened with other similar interventions. for other diseases like smallpox or polio, what have you. They have all been tested and approved, and their safety profile is, well, safety is relative. And their safety profile is extremely safe compared to other things. But these new interventions that are supposed to be, it's a new technology, supposed to be very much like the others. It's not showing up even already in the jab. The adverse reactions, official data from VAERS in the United States and in the UK and the EU show far less safe than all other medical interventions before. The traditional ones are extremely safe. But this is serious stuff, man. And it's sad that we're at this point. But, and those in authority, they do need to be held accountable. If they knew what's going on, they did not tell the truth to the public, and if they profited by pushing this intervention, they need to be held to account, and the punishment should be severe, because that could be on the same level of, murder. If you knew, I would say, for example, sort of unrelated, but in a similar way, is I've done some looking into what happened with the Boeing 737 MAX. The leadership there in Boeing, if you looked at the court case and read the documents, you find out that they knew, senior management knew that plane was dangerous. They chose to let it fly anyway. Why? They didn't want to hurt the stock price because they all had stock bonuses. They didn't want to lose out. So I consider that premeditated murder. And yet they got off scot-free. Boeing got fined. CEO, I think, got fired. But he got a $50 million severance package. Jesus. Anyway, that's all I have to say for now.